A platform drop and a party shift. Well, the Conservative Party did something pretty rare in a campaign. They released a comprehensive platform on day two, which is early. Remember, in 2019, the party didn't do it until after the federal leaders' debates. The Conservative Party is pitching leader Erin O'Toole as the man with the plan. His platform includes a plan to create 1 million homes in the next 3 years and the Canada Job Surge plan that would pay up to 50% of the salaries of new hires for 6 months. But a campaign pledge to protect doctors' conscience rights over performing medical procedures for moral or religious reasons is getting criticized. Mr. O'Toole looked at that criticism and is shifting his stance, saying now doctors actually must refer patients even if they oppose the procedure. Check this out.
I'm pro-choice, and I want to make sure that access for women to those services are available across the country. It's an important right I will not only defend. I think we can also defend conscience rights for our incredible men and women on the front lines in our healthcare system. We have to respect conscience rights, but allow there to be referrals.
So is the Conservative Party at odds with itself on some key issues? And what about mandating vaccines for candidates? With more on this, let's go to Conservative candidate Eric Duncan. Sir, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Voters are trying to figure out who Erin O'Toole is. It's his first campaign, obviously, and what the Conservative Party he stands for is. I'll give you an example. Mr. O'Toole himself raised the abortion issue this past week in Quebec, saying he's pro-choice. How does that square with the fact that the majority of your party voted to support an abortion bill on sex selection back in June against Mr. O'Toole? So how do people trust what he says about an issue if he was Prime Minister, if he's at odds with essentially 2/3 of his own party?
Well, Evan, thank you for having me on this morning. And on that issue specifically, I think Erin has been very clear. And one of the things that's been refreshing as Canadians get to know him is when he's asked a question, he actually answers it with substance. And he has made very clear that he is pro-choice, that our party and our documents within our party and our policy conventions are that a Conservative government would not reopen this debate. And we need to, when we will stick to that. We've made that commitment before. We have, and Erin has done that again. And I think at the end of the day, where we're getting a lot of this coming up is, and the reaction in the peripheral of all this is, I just think, the Liberals is flailing all over the place in the first week of trying to make it an issue.
Just to be fair, it was actually Mr. O'Toole who brought this issue up, not the Liberals. It was him. He declared, I'm pro-choice. And I know he is, and I'm not doubting his sincerity. But he's allowing private members to bring forward bills on this. I get that. But remember, 2/3 of his caucus voted to support a sex selection abortion bill. Even your deputy leader, Candice Bergen, voted for that bill against Mr. O'Toole. And it's raised the question, whether it's on climate change, where there was a vote, as you know, where most of the caucus did not vote to say climate change is real during that convention, or other issues. Is Mr. O'Toole saying one thing but leading a parade with no one in his own party behind him?
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think we're actually quite united as a party with our platform and our recovery plan. We've had a very solid first week. But on this, Evan, I think when it comes, for example, to conscience rights, Erin has come out in the position of supporting conscience rights. And what we have is the very same position of what Liberals have said for years, including the Prime Minister, the Minister of Justice, David Lametti, and other Liberals as well. I think a lot of times what I'm saying is that when things don't go well for other campaigns, for example, on conscience rights, the Liberals try to use it as an attack piece. It's not working. Erin's asked the question. He's been clear on it. That is our position. And again, we are not going to reopen those debates. We've heard that from Canadians. And I think, at the end of the day, what people are focused on are not these types of issues. They're focused on the recovery. That's what we're focused on. I think that's why we're getting some momentum this week, Evan, is because we're focusing on the issues that Canadians are talking about and want to talk over 36 days.
Okay. Again, it was Mr. O'Toole campaigning in Quebec, trying to avoid this issue from 2019, who brought this up. So I just want to, maybe we can clarify, because you mentioned protecting conscience rights of doctors who for moral or religious reasons will not perform an abortion or medical assistance in dying. You are right, sir, that those rights are protected. But in Ontario, as you know, an Ontario Court of Appeal judgment in 2019 confirmed that doctors at least must refer patients who want these services to a doctor who will perform it. It's called effective referral. Now, would Mr. O'Toole, who says I'm protecting conscience rights, enforce that law? And so be clear, do conscience rights extend to referral? Yes or no?
So again, I can refer you to the question that the media and others had asked Aaron O'Toole this week on the campaign trail. When he was asked the question, he gave the answer that for referrals, that still stands in that policy there. He was clear that referrals must be made in that issue. But again, Evan, whenever he's asked a question, he gives the answer. That is the answer. That's the policy that we're going to have and what a Conservative government move forward with. We're not going to be reopening these debates on issues that are closed. But when it comes to conscience rights, we have the same position. We're not just talk, but on conscience rights, we have the same position as many Liberals have said. They just say one thing during the House of Commons. They say a different thing depending on the way the wind blows during an election campaign.
Okay, on mandatory vaccines, again, Mr. O'Toole says, I support vaccines. I got a vaccine, and I support mandatory, I want everyone to get a vaccine. But unlike, for example, Doug Ford, the leader of the Progressive Conservatives in Ontario, he says all my candidates must be vaccinated. We're in a pandemic. We're concerned about a fourth wave. Why won't Aaron O'Toole mandate every one of your candidates to be vaccinated and send the message that to be a Conservative candidate, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? What's wrong with that when businesses want that? Canadians are suffering through the pandemic. Why not send that clear message?
Well, Evan, again, we have been very clear. Vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they are efficient. And we're strongly encouraging every Canadian that's available to them to get vaccinated. It is a key way to get us through this pandemic.
But not your candidates.
But Evan, what we're saying is it's individual choice. And we're not just ending it at that. There's another important key aspect to that. If an individual, for whatever reason, chooses not to be vaccinated, for workplace, for example, on campaign teams, whatever it may be, subjecting to a rapid daily test to keeping people safe. It is a balanced and it is a reasonable approach. And Evan, you're actually seeing this week, it was the Liberals that said one thing. They've changed their answer about 4 times. In all honesty, I've lost exactly. I think right now they're negotiating and they're going to work and see where it goes. What we actually said, the public sector unions, for an example, we've seen several large banks in the country this week, go out and say that they're implementing the same policy we're having, is that vaccines, strongly encourage them. We're seeing a wonderful uptake in this country, one we can be proud of. But as opposed to mandating and ending up in courts and doing grievances and changing union agreements.
But that way you wouldn't have but it's not a unionized shop running a campaign. I was asking about candidates. But quickly, because I got just a minute here, because you're talking about housing, and I mentioned it off the top. I know Mr. O'Toole launched the Canada Job Surge Plan that would pay up to 50% salary for new hires for 6 months after the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program ends. Here's the thing. It's basically identical to the Liberals' Canada Recovery Hiring Program, which also pays the same. I think the difference is that the Conservatives apply to businesses who even profited during the pandemic, but the Liberals doesn't. I'm just trying to figure this out. You're both planning 1 million new jobs. That program literally sounds identical to the Liberal program. What is the difference?
Well, Evan, there is a big difference. We're on, as you mentioned at the beginning of your segment, on day 2, we have a full platform talking about job recovery.
No. What's the difference in that particular program? I'm just trying to.
Where we're going is so asking about the same copying of the Liberal program. If you talk to any small business that's got a help wanted sign, our plan is different. Where what we're incentivizing is for somebody who's been chronically unemployed because of COVID-19, we're giving a bonus to the business. We're giving the incentive. We're giving the wage subsidy to a business to hire people, get them back to work. It gets people back into work. It helps the businesses. One of the biggest pieces we have right now in our country to getting everything firing on all cylinders is people being able to get jobs and small businesses being able to hire. So what we're saying is if you hire somebody that's unemployed or has been on CERB, we're going to give you a bonus. We're going to get things fired back up again, Evan. It's going to be, we have a full platform. And again, in contrast to the others, I think we've had a very solid week because we wanted to make sure Canadians know we've got a full detailed plan, not hypotheticals. It's out there. And that's a specific key part. Get people back to work. Get the economy firing on all cylinders.
On that particular issue, it's very similar. But as you say, there's a lot of platform to get through. And I hope we do get through it over these next, now only 29 days. Always a pleasure, sir, to have you on the program, taking time off a busy campaign for you. Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Time flies when you're having fun. Thanks for having me on, Evan. I'll probably be back again. Look forward to it.
All right, I appreciate that.